Hello, and welcome to the Simply Business Interview Podcast, a podcast created by business owners for business owners. I am your host, John Jennings. I believe that most business owners are working way too hard for much too little. And one of our issues is that we overcomplexify things. I believe the answers are almost always within us or within our reach. I like to say that I'm a simple man with simple ideas. So welcome to Simply Business. All right, today we are joined by Steve Hall, who's the president of M&P Logistics. Steve's got a great story to tell. Looking forward to hearing from it. Thanks for coming on the show. And would you start by just telling us a little bit about what you do at M&P, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the business and really talk about our team. So M&P Logistics is a full service property brokerage company. So we transport widgets to paper to high tech across the United States. We also have an asset division, which is M&P Transport. And we use those two strategically aligned. So anything you need to transport across the country or international, we're involved in all that.
Yeah. And so you started 2008, is that, or before that maybe?
Sure. Well, M&P Logistics, my wife started M&P Logistics in 2011.
Okay.
My wife and I actually started a truck line, Triple R Express, which is named after our three children, in 2001. We operated that until 2013. And my wife saw a need for more the non-asset side of the business, and she started the business and actually worked out of the home for a short period of time, starting in 2011. I joined the company in 2018 after I was under contract for 5 years with a with a group that bought Triple R Express in 2013. So that's a little bit of our story. But I've started in the trucking business really just looking for a sales job out of college in 1987. And I found a real passion about transportation, all the unique needs, the ability to meet people's unique strategies and needs across the United States, and all kinds of, when you get to walk into a high-tech facility or into a beer producing facility or anything, and you see how they operate, manufacture, it's really eye-opening of how the technology has changed over the years. And all of them are very, very fascinating, from metal shops to you think beer is something that is pretty basic, but it can be super high tech with robots running around the entire, facility, and you get to watch how that is produced. So it's been very interesting.
Yeah. And you gave away your age there. And if I remember correctly, you and I kind of hung out in the same college haunts back in the mid '80s. So we don't know, or we don't remember if our paths crossed paths. But
that's correct. That's correct.
But we were certainly in some of the same places, and I think our doors right next door to each other.
We still remember the dog, right? Which
Yes.
just got bought at Eastern
Yeah.
University. So it was a great time. It was a great 4.5 years of my life. So it was perfect.
Yeah. So in full disclosure, if anybody has stories or pictures, please keep them to yourself.
Yes, we won't remember necessarily all of
them. So fast forward back from the '80s to you coming on board here. You've tried to really work at creating a special culture, it sounds like, as far as really focused on young leaders, and your faith and your other things are all part of the culture you're trying to build. Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, I think it was a great opportunity for me, starting your business in 2001 at a young age. When you first start a business, it becomes very complex. Whether you can do it, what qualifies you necessarily to be able to accomplish that? How do you lead? And a lot of times you get mixed between it's about me or other things, especially in your first go around. And I think a lot of young leaders have that that same potential problem, and you get kind of mixed at times. Uh, when we sold the business, it was a great opportunity. Uh, I won't say to reset, but to actually, I really dove into my faith. I was trying to figure out how to mix both our faith along with mentoring young men and women. How what is God calling you to do? And so that was a probably one of the times where really a great men's group that I was involved in. Terry Phillips with the Crossroads group. We spent a year, almost a year and a half in a men's group. It was really trying to understand what your next purpose is and how to actually take your faith and also mix that in with your business and how to make that a successful collaboration, quite
Mhm.
frankly. And that's been really what our goal has been, is to make sure that people understand in our business, whether we're hiring them or whether we're working with them, that God is central in our business, and we want to actually work with young men and women to teach them everything about business, P&Ls, how to operate, how, the difference between balance sheets and P&Ls and how to collectively, run an operation. Mentor them from the beginning, to the end of the whole business cycle. So, and then we use that also to work in the community. We have a number of our favored, whether they're ministries or um, groups that are supporting children for food, whatever those different needs are. So we've been able to use that as a platform and be able to actually try to give first fruits. We're not always successful, but we plan every year to give first fruits to the community or to navigators, Young Life, and a lot of different groups that have been impactful in the community.
Mhm. Excellent.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned to me before that you're like your oldest leaders on your team are in their mid 30s, right? Which you're not, since we're about the same age. I could say that. So how are you finding, relating to them, attracting them? How do you attract them to your team? Because there's a lot of business owners out there that are struggling with this very topic.
Yeah, and it's because of the age gap. There is a really a unique gap between how necessarily we were raised and the expectations of younger people coming into the business. And in some areas, they obviously they teach me a lot of things. We when we first really jumped back into the business, it's amazing how many young men and women came to us from either association with Young Life at the time,
Hmm.
or are some of my children's friends that grew up with them in high school, and then when they came out of college, we would see somebody at a restaurant and they're in the middle of searching for a job, and I'm like, hey, come by and just shadow, come
Yeah.
and see us, see what we do, and we'll see if there's a fit. We created some intern roles that have converted from an intern role he's now our CFO, basically, our vice
Oh,
president of
wow.
finance. And he's a whopping age 25, I think, getting ready to turn 26. So,
That's
uh,
awesome.
yeah, our business, our vice president of business development, he is 29. He's been with us for 8 years, and
Mm.
just a solid individual, just a very bright young man, considered being in the legal profession, and he's used those talents and resources to really kind of uh, spearhead some really unique industries that we participate in, whether it's in AI or in capital equipment and other areas. And he's taken some of his passion and really been able to grow and develop business in a very unique sector that not many people are involved in.
Yeah. That's awesome because, like I said, so many people I run across I mean, they're trying to attract younger employees, or they can't keep younger employees. But I mean, you've got a couple of senior leaders in your organization now that you've obviously attracted them at a very young age and they've stuck with you. That's a great story.
Yeah. And I think, some of it, it's obviously luck. Some of it's been, we really, we get to spend one-on-one time, and especially the earliest young folks that came in, we really had so many opportunities to 4 or 5 people initially. Now we're
Mm.
we're not large, but we're somewhere around 60 employees now. So when you're able to do that, you do have more time. And we make a point in our business to have, we use Martin Luther King Day at lunch to actually talk about, all of our numbers. We're very transparent with everything we do. And then we talk about what our plan is. And we incorporate every individual in our budgeting plan prior to the year. So we use all those opportunities to teach, but we also use those opportunities for them to know how the business interacts and how well we're doing, and then the areas that we're seeing, that we need improvements in, or areas to really start to attack certain segments of industries and things that really match up well with our culture or match up well with our individual employees.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So, what's the biggest challenge of being a a leader of our distinguished stature, and but leading a bunch of 20 and 30-year olds? What's the biggest challenge for you?
Um, you know, I think I get energized by their energy. When
Mhm.
people come into that age, they really think that there's no barriers. So
Yeah,
it's pretty cool to see that.
yeah,
And really, if you can guide it, there's still the times I would say of lack of some motivation in some individuals, and trying to get them to see the bigger picture and how they can actually create a business inside your business. And and I would think, I guess on a real personal side is, I don't know if I've ever had that experience except for one time for somebody to really teach me. And
mm,
so when we're trying to do this, I don't know if they understand that they grasp the magnitude of what they could be learning and understanding, and we're putting it in front of them. Not always time do people accept that, or it's not the right timing for them, or whatever that situation is. I would say that's still probably my biggest frustration, because we're really trying to help them grow and become strong men and women inside the community. And they can do that well if they understand the business principles and the practices of it all. So
yeah. I refer to that energy as sometimes it's naive optimism,
it is.
but
Isn't it great though?
it's great,
Yeah.
and sometimes it works out well. Sometimes they prove to be right.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's we're stuck in our thinking,
Sure.
and we learn a thing or two as well. And
Yeah.
I
We've
think
learned.
that's awesome as well. Well, let's talk a little bit more about your business and some of the challenges you're facing today. Kind of, I mean, every industry is going through changes. There's tariffs. There's, I know you're right there across the street from the airport, almost. There's have been a lot of challenges in the uh, shipping and just that aspect of the transportation market. So, what are some of your biggest business challenges these days?
There's so we're both a trucking and a brokerage operation. Our brokerage operation is 90 to 95% of our business, and our
Oh wow,
trucking
okay,
is really five to 10% of our business. And that's completely opposite of when I owned Triple R Express. Triple
okay,
R Express was a 85, 90% all asset based. We were 169 company trucks, 300 trailers. We had some owner operators as well. So, and we had a warehousing operation. So we we went from being heavy in assets and heavy in a number of areas to M&P being a very light asset
Hmm.
company. It's allowed us to be more flexible. We still have 94 trailers right now set across the United States, and we use those in very specialized environment, whether it's lightweight equipment or whether they're moving vans to handle um, capital equipment or something that's very specialized. We have temperature controlled moving vans, and then we have our basic refrigerated trailers and dry van equipment. So, the challenges of what's happening in the United States is there's a dynamic happening to now that's really being addressed by the Trump administration with what they're calling chameleon companies, which are a lot of fraud that's going on in the marketplace
Hmm.
today. We're seeing our we spend a great deal of money and resources and have very stringent rules about who we actually use, how we sign on an individual carrier, because there is so many opportunities for people to mimic someone else.
Oh,
So I
wow.
would say that's probably one of our biggest challenges. And then there's a lot of fraudulent driver schools that are creating um, they'll call them non-domiciled CDL drivers that aren't trained properly. So
Mhm.
we're trying to make sure that we're very wise in who we're selecting for the safety of the communities, and we're trying to make sure that we're very wise about the fraud that's taking place and the ongoing training that we're implementing across our network. So it's a day-to-day challenge, quite frankly.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I can't even imagine. There's fraud, I guess, in every industry, but I hadn't thought about, but there has been some national news on some of these items. So what what is your, what's that look like? What's that strategy look like to weed
we
out the fraudsters and
we've invested in technology, and it takes us through a 10-step process.
mm,
As we use the technology, it gets almost to the point of an email that isn't a legitimate email. We can't even communicate with them. It will reject it. It will give us warnings it's one letter off, or there's anything that looks
mm,
outside of what that domain actually can be.
yeah.
We use those 10-step process to qualify the carriers to the point of, do they actually have a yard? If they
Mm,
say they own box trucks, the VIN numbers that we actually can match up with the actual carrier themselves, we know how many trailers they have. We know the type of trailers they have. We know if they own box trucks. So we'll take it down to every to information that you couldn't normally find or pull. We can look at the cargo policies of the motor carriers themselves to understand whether they can handle or uh, or distribute copper piping or anything that is a high value theft product that happens
mhm.
in our industry. So we're looking at we go through extremes now, and it takes a lot of resources and time and
Yeah.
technology, a lot of money to make sure that's happening. So the fraud is we've had to do it out of being burned as well. So
Oh, sure.
our
It's usually why
lesson,
people usually don't care about fraud until they've faced
to
it.
experience it, right?
Yeah.
So, but our programs it's helped us become very strong with our SOPs, and we have SOPs on everything, and every customer that we operate with. Some of them are some basic ones with track and trace and so forth. But really, when you get into high value transportation, we have very stringent requirements and rules on how we process, and then how we touch that, and who in our company is qualified actually to make those decisions. So again, made us better. Our goal is to be the best in high value transportation, but that means really being best in the business and every aspect of how we operate customers' load.
Yeah.
So
I only asked this because I met somebody in logistics several years ago,
sure.
and I asked him this question, and the answer was shocking. What's the most interesting thing you've transported or brokered the transportation for?
Most interesting. I think my most interesting request was from a gentleman that I met. He asked me, and he was with the Federal Reserve, and he asked me if we would consider transporting $1 bills from one location to be destroyed in another. And what they were experiencing high transportation costs. But when you look at what 44,000 pounds in a van with single dollar bills, and then you look at the value of the single dollar bills, is how much security do you need to have surrounding you to transport something like that? So that was probably my most unique request. Um, but my goodness, we've had some very strange, shipments. Um, uh, but we do so many high value shipments at the same time,
Yeah.
that we have very unique AI transportation. We have guards, and we have armed guards, and we have different things that no one would actually notice if they weren't in the business. So we have that type of service.
Mhm.
I'm trying to make this an appropriate comment, and I'm struggling with how to make this an appropriate. There was
Don't do anything you're not comfortable with.
yeah. So anyway, yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Okay. It's just a curiosity. Um, so what's on the horizon? What's the next chapter look like? What's the future look like for M&P?
We're looking at the horizon. We don't really a company. We've grown. We've been very fortunate. We've had nice growth patterns from probably our smallest amount of growth has been 10 to 12%. We've had the 40% growth. We're not necessarily doing it for the growth part of it, but how do we create these opportunities, continue to grow and mature our staff? And I think we're all very excited about the most unique challenges. We've transported 300,000-pound shipments. So we're into so many unique services. We're trying to look at where we're the best at, how do we expand in those individual markets, uh,
Hmm.
and how do we train our staff so that we continue to be able to make sure that we're servicing that business to the level that we believe that it deserves. So having those opportunities for people to grow, and actually become leaders. Um, I we're just not into basic commodities. We love
Yeah.
commodities, but we're not just driven by a grocery warehouse. We're driven by finding unique challenges. How do you maximize a trailer? How do you cut down your emissions? How do we improve our entire network to match multiple priorities across
Yeah.
industries? So I don't know if
Yeah.
I sound like a politician. I don't know if I really answered the question, but
No, you sound like a person who cares about your community
yeah.
and wants to make an impact. So, which is one of the things that attracted me, when we first met. I went, I love hearing from people who are doing that, who are trying to make an impact, who aren't shy about their faith and aren't shy about how they're being blessed through their business and how they're trying to bless others. And I think that's a awesome thing that you're doing, and
Yeah.
great that you're representing the EKU that way, and
Isn't that awesome?
and
That's right.
and growing a great business right here in Kentucky, which I love. I love that. Well, Steve, thank you for telling your story. It is inspiring, and certainly I think just shows that there's people who have the right heart and the right attitude, and just who seek to serve tend to have success in this life. So um, I,
Yeah.
I'm grateful that we got introduced, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. Enjoyed talking with you. I hope to see you.
Yeah, for sure.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked it, please share or like it on whatever platform you use. You can find me on social media. On most platforms, I'm John K. Jennings. My first book is also available. Your Baby is Ugly tells you about 10 truths that business owners need to hear, but often won't, and how to overcome them. You can find it on Amazon. Just search for Your Baby is Ugly. And be watching for our next episode, where I'll interview another business owner who will share their stories and insights into what it's like to create a great business.